You can hear the vroom vroom in the background. Hello everybody. Hello. How's everybody doing? I decided not to stream Cyberpunk today because I have a relatives staying over, so I kinda have to be a bit quiet. Not that I am usually very loud to begin with, but yeah, so much for streaming a week a day, or rather twice or 3 times a day, right? I think at this point I should just accept that I can really only stream twice a week at most. Oh well, I think I should be fine with it. It's not like I'm making any money out of this. I mean, I hope I can, but still, anyway. So, considering that I cannot play any sort of noisy games today, also I hope there is no feedback loop happening in the background, because I tested the audio just a minute ago and it was bad. It was really bad, but I hope it's only from the testing. I might have to I really have to probably listen to the VOD later on. But yeah, back to reading. We're back to reading The Time Traveler, which is a little ironic, despite how many times I said I love time traveling stories. I'm having a very hard time reading, or rather streaming myself reading this book. Bah, that's probably just me being lazy. Where were we last time? Something about a time traveler going to the future. Right, let's recap a little bit. So, where we last left off, there was this time traveler, and he supposedly went time traveling, which I suppose is a given considering his name is just a time traveler. Actually, he doesn't even have a name. Yeah, most, if not all, of the characters in this book have titles as their name, which, quite frankly, I do not dislike. I think I probably would also realize from stories like The Goblin Slayer, they don't have names. They have a title such as Goblin Slayer, the Priest, the Dwarf, or the Sword Maiden, or the Hero. They don't actually have any actual name attached to them, which is a cool way to assign characters with a name. Yeah, this time traveler, one day he held a party, and he was late to the party, and about a couple of hours or so after the party started, he came home looking like he went through a war zone. And he claimed that he traveled to, well, I'm not actually sure if he went to the past or not, but he claimed he time traveled. That's why he looks like he haven't seen civilization in a couple of decades, probably. So at this party that he came home to, he then started telling his story about his time travel adventure. And his story began with him traveling to the very, very far future, probably about a couple of centuries, maybe even a couple of thousand of years into the future, perhaps. They don't actually give you any sort of date, but yes, it's a very, very long time into the future he went. And he went to the future, and things changed. A lot of things changed. His home is gone, the surroundings gone, and the world is apparently occupied by a bunch of little gray people, or children, or whatever. They seem to be technologically advanced. I'm not sure either their surroundings are technologically advanced or were technologically advanced at that point in time. But their future people do not seem to be very bright. In fact, they seem more like children. They look like children, they act like children, they think like children. They don't even speak the same language as this time traveler does, so the time traveler is kind of having a hard time communicating with them. At the very least, they're peaceful, somewhat. They give him food, and the animals that we knew and love are all extinct. So they really only have fruits to eat. But yeah, the time traveler presumably, or rather according to his story at least, he stayed there in the future for about a couple of months or so, learning their language a bit to little avail, eating only fruits and fruits and fruits and fruits a day in and day out, and even he got a bit tired of the future. Yes. So that's where we left off. That was chapter 5, by the way. And now we're moving on to chapter 6, The Sunset of Mankind. Now that title sounds ominous. Let's begin. A queer thing I soon discovered about my little hosts, and that was their lack of interest. They would come to me with eager cries of astonishment, like children. But like children, they would soon stop examining me and wander away after some other toy. The dinner and my conversational beginnings ended. I noted for the first time that almost all those who had surrounded me at first were gone. It is odd, too, how speedily I came to disregard these little people. I went out through the portal into the sunlit world again as soon as my hunger was satisfied. I was continually meeting more of these men of the future who would follow me with a little distance, chatter and laugh about me, and having smiled and gesticulated in a friendly way, leave me again unto my own devices. Apparently, these future people do not find him strange. At most, a little interesting or funny, but then they kind of just lose interest of them. And they will release their peaceful. At the very least, they are peaceful. Yes. The calm of evening was upon the world as I emerged from the great hall, and the scene was lit by the warm glow of the setting sun. So the world was a pet, or rather the world in the time that he's in right now, in the time that the time traveler stopped in, it seems like the world had went through some sort of apocalyptic era. And now these little people are kind of just scavenging whatever remained of the world. The calm of evening was upon the world as I emerged from the great hall, and the scene was lit by the warm glow of the setting sun. At first, things were very confusing. Everything was so entirely different from the world I had known, even the flowers. The big building I had left was situated on the slope of a broad river valley, but the Thames had shifted perhaps a mile from its present position. I resolved to mount to the summit of a crest, perhaps a mile and a half away, from which I would get a wider view of this our planet in the year 802,701. Hold on. from which I could get a wider view of this our planet in the year 802,701. Oh wow. I underestimated a time machine. He didn't just go forward in time by a couple of hundred of years or thousands of years. He went forward in time hundreds and thousands of years. Oh wow. Okay, so his time is not 3000 AD or 5000 AD. It's literally 800,000 AD. Holy crap. That's 800,000 years into the future for our time. For that, I should explain what the date the little dials of my machine recorded. I see. He saw the date on his time machine, I guess. Oh my goodness. I didn't even think the Earth could actually last that long. Actually, hold on. What is the age of the sun, the lifespan of the sun? $10 billion years, about 5 billion years left. Okay, it's still kind of not really denting the sun yet. But you would think that after 800,000 years, probably the Earth's geological activity would have slowed down, probably even died. Yeah, at that point, the Earth should probably have cooled down enough to become Mars. Anyway, as I walked, I was watching for every impression that could possibly help to explain the condition of ruinous splendor in which I found the world. For ruinous it was. Yeah, like I said earlier, or rather, like the time traveler explained earlier. Actually, he didn't explain it. He's only just starting to explain it now, but yeah. Like I said earlier, it's post-apocalyptic scene. The world as we knew it underwent some sort of apocalyptic era of some sort. A little way up the hill, for instance, was a great heap of granite, bound together by masses of aluminum, a vast labyrinth of precipitous walls and crumpled heaps, amidst which were thick heaps of very beautiful pagoda-like plants, nettles possibly, but wonderfully tinted with brown about the leaves and incapable of stinging. It was evidently a derelict remains of some vast structure. To what end built, I could not determine. It was here that I was destined at a later date to have a very strange experience, the first intimation of a still stranger discovery. But of that, I will speak in its proper place. Ooh, he's foreshadowing something. Looking round with a sudden thought from a terrace on which I rested for a while, I realized that there were no small houses to be seen. Apparently, the single house and possibly even the household had vanished. Oh, his neighborhood at his current time, the time traveler's current time, had all just but gone, I guess. Here and there among the greenery were palace-like buildings, but the house and the cottage of which form such characteristic features of our own English landscape had disappeared. Communism, I said to myself. Okay, hold on, let me try that again. Communism, said I to myself, and on the heels of that came another thought. Communism ruined everything, apparently. I looked at half a dozen little figures that were following me. Then, in a flash, I perceived that all had the same form of costume, the same soft, hairless visage, and the same girlish rotundity of a limb. It may seem strange, perhaps, that I had not noticed this before, but everything was so strange now. I saw the fact plainly enough. In costume and in all the differences of texture and the bearing that now mark of... wait, hold on. In costume and in all the differences of texture and bearing that now mark off the sexes from each other, these people of the future were alike. Clones? And the children seemed to my eyes to be but the miniatures of their parents. Well, they are clones. I judged then that the children of that time were extremely precocious, physically at least, and I found afterwards abundant verification of my opinion. Seeing the ease and security in which these people were living, I felt that this close resemblance of the sexes were after all what one would expect. For the strength of a man and the softness of a woman, the institution of the family and the differentiation of occupations are mere militant necessities of an age of physical force. Where population is balanced and abundant, much childbearing becomes an evil rather than a blessing to the state. Hold on. Oh, this is actually getting deep. Where population is balanced and abundant, much childbearing becomes an evil rather than a blessing to the state. Where violence comes but rarely and offspring are secure, there is less necessity. Indeed, there is no necessity for an efficient family, and the specialization of the sexes with reference to their children's needs disappears. We see some beginnings of this even in our own time, and in this future age it was complete. This, I must remind you, was my speculation at the time. Later I was to appreciate how far it fell short of the reality. I see. That was his own assumption from his observation. But apparently, he was wrong. He assumed that the future, now that they have pretty much everything that they could ever want, pretty much in a utopia, there's no need for marriage, there's no need for genders, there's no need for specialization in work or household stuff. So everybody just kind of became the same. But he was wrong. Apparently, something else caused this. While I was musing upon these things, my attention was attracted by a pretty little structure, like a well under a cupola. I thought in a transitory way of the oddness of wells still existing, and then resumed the thread of my speculations. There were no large buildings towards the top of the hill, and as my walking powers were evidently miraculous, I was presently left alone for the first time. With a strange sense of freedom and adventure, I pushed on up to the crest. I kinda do get him. In a post-apocalyptic world where there are no rules, no government, no countries, no capitalism, no nothing, no beliefs, you kinda just feel like you own the world. Kinda, or at the very least you're free to do whatever you want. There, with a strange sense of freedom and adventure, I pushed on up to the crest of the hill that he was climbing against. There I found a seat of some yellow metal that I did not recognize, corroded in place with a kind of pinkish rust and half smothered in soft moss. The armrests cast and filed into the resemblance of griffins' heads. I sat down on it and I surveyed the broad view of our old world under the sunset of that long day. It was as sweet and fair a view as I have ever seen. The sun had already gone below the horizon and the west was flaming gold, touched with some horizontal bars of purple and crimson. Below was the valley of the Thames, in which the river lay like a band of burnished metal. I have already spoken of the great palaces dotted about among the variegated greenery, some in ruins and some still occupied. Here and there rose a white or silvery figure in the waste garden of the earth. Here and there came the sharp vertical line of some cupola or obelisk. There were no hedges, no signs of proprietary rights, no evidences of agriculture. The whole earth had become a garden. Beautiful. I love post-apocalyptic. So watching, I began to put my interpretation upon the things I had seen, and as it shaped itself to me that evening, my interpretation was something in this way. Afterwards, I found I had got only half a truth, or only a glimpse of one facet of the truth. It seemed to me that I had happened upon humanity upon the wane. The ruddy sunset set me thinking of the sunset of mankind. Name drop. For the first time, I began to realize and awe the consequences of the social effort in which we are at present engaged. And yet, come to think, it is a logical consequence enough. Strength is the outcome of need. Security sets a premium on feebleness. The work of ameliorating the condition of life, the true civilizing process that makes life more and more secure, had gone steadily on to a climax. One triumph of a united humanity over nature had followed another. Things that are now mere dreams had become projects, deliberately put in hand and carried forward. And the harvest was what I saw. After all, the sanitation and the agriculture of today are still in the rudimentary stage. The science of our time had attacked but a little department of the field of human disease. But even so, it spreads its operations very steadily and persistently. Our agriculture and horticulture destroy a weed just here and there and cultivate perhaps a score or so of wholesome plants, leaving the greater number to fight out a balance as they can. We improve our favorite plants and animals, and how few they are, gradually by selective breeding. Now a new and better peach, now a seedless grape, now a sweeter and larger flower, now a more convenient breed of cattle. We improve them gradually, because our ideals are vague and tentative, and our knowledge is very limited. Because nature, too, is shy and slow in our clumsy hands. Someday, all this will be better organized and still better. That is the drift of the current in spite of the eddies. The whole world will be intelligent, educated, and cooperating. Things will move faster and faster towards the subjugation of nature. In the end, wisely and carefully, we shall readjust the balance of animal and vegetable life to suit our human needs. This adjustment, I say, must have been done, and done well, done indeed, for all time, in the space of time across which my machine had leapt. The air was free from gnats, the earth from weeds or fungi, Everywhere were fruits and sweet and delightful flowers. Brilliant butterflies flew hither and thither. The ideal of preventative medicine was attained. Diseases had been stamped out. I saw no evidence of any contagious diseases during all my stay, and I shall have to tell you later that even the process of putrefaction and decay had been profoundly affected by these changes. Social triumphs, too, had been affected. I saw mankind housed in splendid shelters, gloriously clothed, and as yet I had found them engaged in no toil. There were no signs of struggle, neither social nor economical struggle. The shop, the advertisement, traffic, all that commerce which constitutes the body of our world, was gone. It was natural that golden evening should jump at the idea of a social paradise. The difficulty of increasing population had been met, I guessed, and population had ceased to increase. But with this changing condition comes inevitably adaptations to the change. What, unless biological science is a mass of errors, is the cause of human intelligence and vigor, hardship, and freedom? Conditions under which the active, strong, and subtle survive, and the weaker go to the wall. Conditions that put a premium upon the loyal alliance of capable men, upon self-restraint, patience, and decision, and the institution of the family, and the emotions that arise therein. The fierce jealousy, the tenderness for offspring, parental self-devotion, all found their justification and support in the imminent dangers of the young. Now, where are these imminent dangers? There is a sentiment arising, and it will grow, against connubial jealousy, against fierce maternity, against passion of all sorts. Unnecessary things now, and things that make us uncomfortable, savage survivals. Discourse in a refined and pleasant life. I thought about the physical slightness of the people, their lack of intelligence, and those big abandoned ruins, abundant ruins, and it strengthened my belief in the perfect conquest of nature. For after the battle comes quiet. Humanity had been strong, energetic, and intelligent, and had used all its abundant vitality to alter the conditions under which it lived. And now came the reaction of the altered conditions. Under the new conditions of perfect comfort and security, that restless energy that with us is strength would become weakness. Even in our own time, certain tendencies and desires, once necessary to survival, are a constant source of failure. Physical courage and the love of battle, for instance, are no great help, may even be a hindrance to a civilized man. And in a state of physical balance and security, power, intellectual as well as physical, would be out of place. For countless years, I judge there had been no danger of war and solitary violence. No danger from wild beasts, no wanting disease to require strength of constitution, no need of toil. For such a life, what we should call the weak are as well equipped as the strong, are indeed no longer weak. Better equipped indeed they are, for the strong would be fretted by an energy for which there was no outlet. No doubt the exquisite beauty of the buildings I saw was the outcome of the last surgings of the now purposeless energy of mankind before it settled down into perfect harmony with the conditions under which it lived. The flourish of that triumph which began the last great peace. this had ever been the fate of energy and security. It takes to art and to eroticism, and then come languor and decay. Interesting. It hadn't been a great war. It wasn't even some sort of natural disaster. Humanity just kind of stagnated. It reached its peak, but then where else could humanity go? They can't conquer the world anymore because they already conquered everything, and everything that they needed to conquer the world, intelligence, strength, constitution, persistence, stubbornness, all those are no longer necessary, and they kind of just get discarded away. So the remnants of humanity kind of just lived in eternal peace afterwards. Nothing else after that. Humanity didn't go out in a blaze of glory or in a fire or destruction. It kind of just faded away. Even this artistic impetus would at last die away, had almost died in the time I saw. To adorn themselves with flowers, to dance, to sing in the sunlight, so much of it was left to the artistic spirit and no more. Even that would fade in the end into a contented inactivity. We are kept keen on the grindstone of pain and necessity, and it seemed to me that here was that hateful grindstone broken at last. As I stood there in the gathering dark, I thought that in this simple explanation I had mastered the problem of the world, mastered the whole secret of these delicious people. Possibly the checks that they had devised for the increase of population had succeeded too well, and their numbers had rather diminished rather than kept stationary. That would account for the abandoned ruins. Very simple was the explanation, and plausibly enough, as most wrong theories are. Okay. Very simple was my explanation, and plausible enough, as most wrong theories are. Okay, so everything that I just read earlier was just his theory of what happened to humanity. That was his hypothesis on how humanity came to be what they are in this year 800,000 AD. That's his idea, at least. But apparently, in this cliffhanger, he admitted that he was wrong. Interesting. A sudden shock. That will be chapter 7. But I feel like I want to actually save this for next time, because that was a very nice cliffhanger to stop on. Yeah, I want to play remote anyway. Yeah, I think it's time for us to end the stream. I can't really stream for very long anyway. My throat kind of hurts, and honestly, I think I've been quite sleep deprived and very dehydrated this last few days. So yeah, I should also try to catch up on some studies too. I mean, not really. To be honest, I feel like I've caught up in a lot of my studies already. But yeah, I don't really know what else to study. Maybe I can try to skip ahead or something, read up on future subjects. Maybe that should actually be something that I can do. Maybe I should do that. But first, Rimworld, it's Friday anyway. I always take a break on Friday. Yeah. I just call it a day here. Maybe I should sleep earlier too. Hopefully, everything had been enjoyable. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that story as much as I did. I love reading stories. I don't know why I can't do this even more often. I mean, I know why, because I'm lazy as fuck. But yeah. Let's call it a day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time with Cyberpunk. Yeah? See you later. Bye bye.